ప్రస్తుతం ఏపీ సీఎం జగన్ మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. లైవ్ లో చూద్దాం.
This is the concept, and just imagine what things can be done. You're not only you can the conventional industry can convert into green industry, and just not that alone. You can talk about using this power to create hydrogen, to create ammonia, NH3, hydrogen, desalinate, get to the coast, desalinate the water, electrolysis, and from water you generate hydrogen. All this in the days to come, in the years to come, would become reality. And Andhra Pradesh is there, right there, welcoming you to become part of this grand endeavor. I think I'll just pass on the mic for the panelists to take over, and probably they would throw more light, better light, hopefully.
Thank you very much, sir. May I just invite us all to just concentrate our minds for a moment. In 7 years, 1 month and 28 days from today, what happens? What is predicted to happen in 7 years, 1 month, 28 days from today? I shall tell you, on the current trajectory of the world's carbon emissions, that is the point at which the world is predicted to cross the 1.5 degrees threshold of global warming over pre-industrial levels. And amongst the effects of that include 1.7 billion of the world's populations being exposed to the sort of extreme heat temperatures that India has suffered over the last month. And it also is the starting point of the world losing control of the ability to manage climate change. So we don't have much time, and I really welcome the fact that we have this panel discussion to talk about what we are collectively able to do and what in particular can be done in the state of Andhra Pradesh, but also to tie it in, as you've said, sir, to the opportunity for jobs, the opportunity to build a green economy. And therefore it is something that, whilst maybe the end point could scare us if we don't act, in the meantime I think we should be super excited about what we can achieve. So if I can now move into the panel discussion, what I'm hoping to do, time may prohibit it, but what I'm hoping to do is that we can have a discussion about the decarbonisation policy journey of India generally, and take that back to the state. I might start with your good self, Avatar, to kick us off on that. I want to get in specifically into the topic of green hydrogen, where I know a number of the members of the panel have something to contribute as one of the leading technology opportunities in the space. And I'd quite like to round it up.
To generate the power from solar and wind, and then during the non-peak hours using this power to pump the water back. As simple a concept as this. What Andhra Pradesh has is, it's got a capacity to build these pump storage capacities to the extent of 33,000 megawatt. We're just talking about 1650 megawatt of pump storage that I had just laid the foundation stone a couple of days before I had come here. And now we're talking about a potential in Andhra Pradesh which is 33,000 megawatt available for the whole of the globe to come over and probably participate. This is the concept. And just imagine what things can be done. You're not only the conventional industry can convert into green industry. And just not that alone. You can talk about using this power to generate the power from solar and wind, and then during the non-peak hours using this power to pump the water back. As simple a concept as this. What Andhra Pradesh has is, It's got a capacity to build these pump storage capacities to the extent of 33,000 megawatt. We're just talking about 1650 megawatt of pump storage that I had just laid the foundation stone a couple of days before I had come here. And now we're talking about a potential in Andhra Pradesh, which is 33,000 megawatt available for the whole of the globe to come over and probably participate. This is the concept. And just imagine what things can be done. You're not only, the conventional industry can convert into green industry. And just not that alone. You can talk about using this power to create hydrogen, to create ammonia, NH3, hydrogen, desalinate, get to the coast, desalinate the water, electrolysis, and from water you generate hydrogen. All this in the days to come, in the years to come, would become reality. And Andhra Pradesh is there, right there, welcoming you to become part of this grand endeavor. I think I'll just pass on the mic for the panelists to take over, and probably they would throw more light, better light, hopefully, to create hydrogen, to create ammonia, NH3, hydrogen, desalinate, get to the coast, desalinate the water, electrolysis, and from water you generate hydrogen. All this in the days to come, in the years to come, would become reality. And Andhra Pradesh is there, right there, welcoming you to become part of this grand endeavor. I think I'll just pass on the mic for the panelists to take over, and probably they would throw more light, better light, hopefully, to create hydrogen, to create ammonia, NH3, hydrogen, desalinate.
దావోస్లో ఏపీ సీఎం జగన్ ప్రస్తుతం డీకార్బనైజ్డ్ ఎకానమీపై జరుగుతున్న సదస్సులో మాట్లాడుతున్నారు. వరల్డ్ ఎకనామిక్ ఫోరంలో డీకార్బనైజ్డ్ ఎకానమీపై ప్రస్తుతం సదస్సు జరుగుతోంది. ఈ సదస్సులో ఏపీ సీఎం జగన్తో పాటుగా నీతి ఆయోగ్ సీఈఓ అమితాబ్ కాంత్ కూడా పాల్గొంటున్నారు. ప్రధానంగా వీరంతా కూడా తమ అభిప్రాయాలను వ్యక్తం చేస్తున్నారు. కార్బన్ రహిత పారిశ్రామిక విధానంపై చర్చ సందర్భంగా ముఖ్యమంత్రి జగన్ కూడా తన ఇన్పుట్స్ ఇచ్చారు. అంతేకాకుండా ఇతర ప్యానలిస్టుల అభిప్రాయాలు కూడా తెలుసుకుని ఏ రకంగా ఈ అంశానికి సంబంధించి ముందుకు వెళ్ళొచ్చు అనే దానికి సంబంధించి మనం ఒక నిర్ణయానికి వచ్చే అవకాశం ఉంటుంది అని ఈ సందర్భంగా ఏపీ సీఎం జగన్ మాట్లాడారు.
Hydrogen, or they run on fossil fuels, or they run on coal. So you have to make 82% of your energy, which is hard to abate sector, green. And the hard to abate sector can only be made green with green hydrogen. And that is the challenge before the world. What has the International Shipping Organization said? 50% of shipping must go green. What has Japan said? I'm going to be the biggest importer of ammonia. What has Europe said? That we'll put border taxes by 2026. So whether we like it or not, fertilizer will have to go the ammonia route. Steel will have to go the green route. Shipping will have to go the green route. What is the answer to that in the world? That's green hydrogen. And that is where Andhra has taken the leadership under the leadership of the Honorable Chief Minister. And that is what a lesson for the rest of the Indian states and for the rest of the world. And that is how you decarbonize your economy and decarbonize the world.
Amitabh, well said, very powerfully said, and I completely agree. This is on behalf not just of the state and India, but for the world, because that green hydrogen economy is a critical part of it, and we'll circle back to that. But you just described steel as one of the hard-to-abate sectors, so it's rather fortunate that we have a spokesperson for the world's most successful steel as well as mining industry. Aditya, can I understand, first of all, do you want to just give us what's the pathway that specifically ArcelorMittal is taking in terms of decarbonisation? And you must be running lots and lots of different initiatives. Maybe you can tease out the one or two that you think are the most promising in terms of driving that transition.
Sure, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you to the Honourable Chief Minister here for having us. Thank you, Amitabh, for all your comments and your passion. It's clearly infectious. So maybe I'll start with the bad news. Amitabh alluded to it, but steel is responsible for 8% of global CO2 emissions. So it's massive. I mean, 8% is huge, right? We're not talking about 1 or 2, but 8% of global emissions. The not so bad news, and I'm not at all biased, steel is still a wonderful material because it is infinitely recyclable. There is no other material that can be recycled into perpetuity. You'll never find steel in the oceans. And steel, in spite of being responsible for 8% of global emissions, has on a per ton basis the lowest carbon footprint, because it requires, actually, relative to aluminium or carbon fiber or anything you'd come up with, much lower energy to make steel. And so that's why I said it's a wonderful material. And so 8%, why? If it's low carbon, it's just because so much of steel is used. So much of steel is used in anything you see, whether it's your car or this building or your washing machine or even your champagne bottle. The cork is made from wire of steel. The good news is that steel is a battery.
To generate the power from solar and wind, and then during the non-peak hours using this power to pump the water back. As simple a concept as this. What Andhra Pradesh has is, it's got a capacity to build these pump storage capacities to the extent of 33,000 megawatt. We're just talking about 1650 megawatt of pump storage that I had just laid the foundation stone a couple of days before I had come here. And now we're talking about a potential in Andhra Pradesh, which is 33,000 megawatt available for the whole of the globe to come over and probably participate. This is the concept. And just imagine what things can be done. The conventional industry can convert into green industry. And just not that alone. You can talk about using this power to generate the power from solar and wind, and then during the non-peak hours using this power to pump the water back. As simple a concept as this. What Andhra Pradesh has is, it's got a capacity to build these pump storage capacities to the extent of 33,000 megawatt. We're just talking about 1650 megawatt of pump storage that I had just laid the foundation stone a couple of days before I had come here. And now we're talking about a potential in Andhra Pradesh, which is 33,000 megawatt available for the whole of the globe to come over and probably participate. This is the concept. And just imagine what things can be done. The conventional industry can convert into green industry. And just not that alone. You can talk about using this power to generate the power from solar and
$650 million, 250 megawatts of 24-hour round-the-clock power. Why is that interesting? It reduces carbon emissions in our facility in India by 1.5 million tons. What is 1.5 million tons? It's 350,000 cars off the road. Okay? So it's real direct, it's immediate impact, it's interesting for the business to do. We plan to double it. I'm very excited by my meeting this afternoon and on just seeing the progress that we have made. We plan to double that investment. We'll probably finalize that decision in the next few months. And as we get more and more renewable power, 33,000 megawatts, we can move into hydrogen. Because if the power is low cost, the hydrogen becomes low cost, it's cost effective for the steel industry to utilize. And the demand is significant. So I think we're all off to a good start. I think there are tremendous ingredients available in Andhra, the whole ecosystem in India, and we can really lead the way in terms of decarbonizing not only the Indian steel business, but also use some of that knowledge, maybe export some of the hydrogen to other parts of the world.
Aditya, thank you very, very much indeed. And this takes us logically to you, because the story we've just heard is that renewable energy is the underpinning of so much else. We need renewable energy for the direct drawing of electricity in order to be able to transition away from coal and gas power stations, but we also need it to be able to convert to hydrogen, which then becomes a storage mechanism, which is critically important to be able to overcome intermittency in renewable assets. And then we need it, for example, to create ammonia, which then drives the fertilizer industry, which goes into agriculture and shipping and so on. So it's all underpinned by the very thing that Greenco is investing in. So tell us what you are going to do to help save the world.
Thanks, Richard, and good afternoon, everyone, ladies and gentlemen. I would say we are a little over a decade-old company as a Greenco. We had a very modest start. From the day one onwards, we have always been trying to develop renewables with the grid parity, and we always came up with some innovative thought process. How do we make the energy available at the right pricing, right location, and how do we move this green electron? To start with, initially says we had a small hydros which we built in a cascading manner, which made the whole hydro energy available much cheaper at the time comparing with the thermals. And later we developed a large scale wind farms and brought down the actually in GEs and Gameshas to do them the localization, and created in long distance transmission lines to unlock the medium wind speed sites, and made sure that we gave a long-term agreements to the GEs and Gameshas and made them to manufacture in India and bring them to the lower costs. Later stage, we developed a hybrid wind and solar sites to unlock the better value creation and brought down the price of the hybrid renewables sub 4 rupee levels and 3 rupee levels down the line. Understanding the whole energy available at such a low cost, how do we make them available round the clock and make them to be in journeying towards peak hour management? That's when we were able to unlock this hydro pump storages. And thanks to the Government of India and Government of Andhra Pradesh under the leadership of Honorable Chief Minister, we were able to successfully unlock the whole challenges we had to start developing the whole project. So that's it. Thanks a lot.
Anil, thank you very much indeed. So Florence, Dassault Systems is a leading software business, and a huge amount of your design and manufacturing software goes into the sorts of industries that we're talking about here. How do you see this from your perspective? I also know you're very active in the States.
Definitely, and thank you very much, Mr. Chief Minister, for inviting me to this panel. What do we do at Dassault Systèmes? We are basically a software company that is doing virtual twin. And why are virtual twin interesting for sustainability? Because if you have the virtual twin of a product, be it a car, be it a plane, be it a bridge, then you can design everything for sustainability. You can test in the virtual world different materials, different processes, and you can choose the most sustainable to implement the most sustainable option. In the beginning of last year, we released a study with Accenture that shows that if we apply virtual twin to 5 use cases in car, high-tech, pharmaceutical industry, consumer good, and transportation, then we could save 7.5 gigaton of CO2 by 2030, which is the equivalent of 1 year of emission of the transportation industry. So it's big. And why is it big? Because basically 80% of the impact of a product is decided at the design phase. So if you optimize at the design phase for sustainability, you can totally change the game. So that's what we are doing with our Indian partners in India, and we are very lucky to be working in Andhra Pradesh, and it's very efficient. We've seen amazing projects here on electric vehicles, two wheels or four wheels electric vehicles, but also example in consumer good, in packaging companies, and we think it's a massive disruption when it comes to make the world and the industry more sustainable.
Thank you very much, Florence. So we actually have plenty of time. So I'd like to cycle back and come back to a few of the points that have been made in the opening comments, and we may well have some time for some questions. So if you have a burning question and you want to in a few minutes wave very, very clearly at me, we will try and bring you in. Aditya, I want to come back to something that you said. You referenced to the fact that obviously ArcelorMittal is operating across a number of different jurisdictions, and then you referenced specifically why the attractions of investing in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Just from your experience across different jurisdictions, what are the things that you're looking for in terms of policy support that makes the difference between somewhere being really attractive to invest in versus somewhere else that you might not prioritise in the same way?
Sure. Richard, let me talk about the steel business, because the renewable business has different policy imperatives, right? For renewable, first of all, you need ease of business, you need land acquisition, and the most important is obviously good wind and good sun, right? Which Andhra has, all of those, ease of doing business, land availability, pump storage. For steel, it's a different it's different dynamics. For the steel industry, I think the most important is to have a level playing field. Okay, so we want to compete with other steel companies which have the same imperative to decarbonize, because fundamentally, as you decarbonize, your cost is going to rise. And how are we going to be successful in places like Europe, where they keep on adding carbon taxes if there's no carbon border adjustment? Because then what is going to happen is steel companies will not decarbonize and export their steel into Europe, and we will not be helping the environment because steel companies in Europe will shut down. So I think that's the first thing. So if India decides to put a carbon tax or create certain incentives to decarbonize, it should be done in a way that is level for all competition. The other option, if you don't create a level playing field, is to stimulate green demand, green steel demand, right? And there are many ways of doing that, through regulatory support. So does automotive need 25% of all their steel? Should it be green? When governments put out bids for infrastructure, is there a mandate that it needs to be made through green steel? So you need market forces to create the demand, because as you heard from me, we have to spend $10 billion. And steel is capital intensive, steel is highly cyclical, steel is not the most profitable business in the world. Without a level playing field, without creating either regulatory support or market forces for demand, it is not obvious for the steel industry to decarbonize. I mean, these technologies are there, but it's not like these technologies were invested last year. They were there 10 years ago, 20 years ago. But fundamentally, moving away from coal to gas or to hydrogen is more expensive. And so what are the incentives or the policy framework to make that feasible? We believe that governments are acting in that direction. So we see strong policy support. And so if you look at our $10 billion investment, we have already announced $6.5 billion, excluding the renewable in Andhra. And that's really in Spain, in France, in Belgium, in Germany as well, and in Canada. We are very impressed with what the Canadian government is doing. And so those are the first 4 jurisdictions in which we have started our decarbonizing journey.
That's super. Thank you. Thank you very much. And I spend a huge amount of my time in the company of infrastructure investors, and indeed in a conversation only last week, which was specifically around the hydrogen economy. The infrastructure investors were saying the challenges here are we don't have a whole market for it yet. So it's isolated investments in different companies and countries, and they're worried about the technology risk still. So the sorts of underpinnings that you're talking about, I think, are really critical. Amitabh, if I can come back to you, I mean, you've had a distinguished career in the Indian civil service. You probably know better than almost anybody how to incentivise things in an economy. What's your reflection on what are those real levers that are going to accelerate and support the sorts of investments that Aditya's talking about?
So my belief is that companies which do not go digital, which do not go green, will find it very difficult to survive beyond 2026. And actually, if you look at the trend in the last 2-3 years, only companies which have gone digital and gone green, they have attracted valuation, they have attracted investments. So if you don't want to go bust, then the only way is to go green and go digital. And actually, it's remarkable. I mean, I have known ArcelorMittal. I know Aditya's dad, who's one of the most dynamic entrepreneurs in the world. And his son is equally, he's even more progressive to think about green growth. And he laid out his vision for this. And I've known Anil for some time recently. He's like a cowboy in the world of energy. He's a disruptor. He's a disruptor, and he's actually, he's the kind of disruption he's bringing in and the kind of size and scale he's bringing in is unparalleled. And it's all being done under a very dynamic chief minister. And the chief minister is providing that vision of doing this, of solar, wind, pump storage, all in the state of Andhra Pradesh. Because Andhra is one state which has the ability to do renewables, it has the ability to do wind, it has the ability to do pump storage, which no other state has. So you can be the center of the world today. And what the government of India is doing is to create the right policy framework. It's come out with a policy framework where it's laid down the same policy incentives for green hydrogen as it has for renewable, that when you transmit power, there'll be no wheeling charges, etc. A whole range of policy measures have been announced. The hydrogen mission is being announced, and we are very clear that by bringing in size and scale, we'll bring down the cost of green hydrogen. This is an opportunity not merely for Andhra, it's an opportunity for India. Quite often, we do small things and we don't do the transition phase is very time-taking. And therefore, we lose this opportunity to be a global champion. It's important to understand that India is climatically blessed and Andhra is climatically blessed. And because it is blessed, the competition for that, there's no competition even from China as climatic conditions are concerned. China is not your competitor. The size and scale is only India. The only other competition in climatic condition comes from Middle East. Now, Middle East is already flushed with oil and gas. And therefore, India has the climatic condition. It is blessed. It has the wind power. It has the renewable power. It is possible for it to make itself the least cost producer by doing size and scale. That is important. Bring in size and scale. Once you've done that, and that is what this partnership is all about. To do 1650 megawatt of, pump storage is actually a lesson for everybody else at Davos. What you're talking about here is a lesson for everybody else at the Congress Center. That this is about a new world of tomorrow. This is about new technology of tomorrow. This is about transforming the world of tomorrow.
Here. It's not we don't have time for incremental. This has to be completely transformational change. And the handshake that you've described between companies that have the innovation and the drive, but backed up by the support of public policies, I think is hugely powerful. And I'm going to hand it back to you. You've been talking about green molecules. And I'm just, you might want to just tease that out for the audience, but also I know that you're investing in the largest possible collection of solar and wind and pump storage, and it will be backed up by just talk to us about that particular reason to again invest in the state of Andhra Pradesh. But what's the green molecule piece?
Just to start with, just to give an backdrop, sir, while the whole India is well blessed with the climatic conditions for renewables, Andhra is especially blessed with an plateau terrain hilltops within Eastern Ghats and having combination of two river basins, Krishna and Godavari river basin, and having well integrated, well irrigation systems. that enables towards in developing such a large-scale pump storage systems around in Andhra. And integrating these, I keep saying that at Greenco, our focus is how do we want to treat your green electron, and how low cost and how do we make it more effective to making it moving from right from the into the bulbs, into the wheels, into the chemicals. How do we make this green electron to move its journey is what we are trying to specialize ourselves and put our innovations in and around storage technologies, digitization, and bringing AI towards and forecasting towards the right energy availabilities and matching with the grid demand systems. That was actually triggered us towards creating this hydrogen, green hydrogen through electrolyzer process. We partnered with one of the Belgium's a company called John Crocker to develop an 2 gigawatt scale of an electrolyzer manufacturing to enable towards a large scale green transition. Yet, our first project is going to be in million tons of ammonia production per annum, which we're hoping that by 2025 we're able to bring that industrial scale of ammonia production levels, along with supporting various other industries to make them green.